Right. Okay, let's share this. Greetings. Okay. Okay, just want to share this live so that, yeah, we can have questions. I hope it's going to be a very short one. And I'm hoping Umkulu is available online. But we're just going to touch on the principle of Djehuti, Kappa Thoth, Kappa Tehuti. Thank you for joining us. Please do tap the screen as you join. Okay, let me repost this. Share on WhatsApp. Yes, I know it's... it is a little bit late. But yeah, due to the requests we got, I think let's just touch a little bit on this principle. Welcome, Togozani. I'm hoping we can use our native tongues today. Yeah, Arirati, the low vibrating language. Yeah, but it's going to be a short little live. So we are almost ending the season of Djehuti. Those who are familiar with Greek mythology, you would know this principle as Thoth. You would see it depicted as the baboon or the ibis with like a writing pad. And in our native tongues, rereke umlobigazi, so the scribe. We also refer to this principle as umlomogazi. One, welcome Gogo, I see you just got here. But umlomogazi, so your advocate, the spoken word. I think when we did the episode Lema Konyane, we touched on the bareke lefatshe la boraro kapa lehatse la boraro ka Setswana, I guess. But they spoke about the word being the principle. Okay, I don't know who these people are. Okay, please request if you have things to share on Hermetic knowledge. Today we're touching on the 7 laws, what they call the 7 Hermetic laws, but yeah, we call them the 7 principles of Djehuti. But this is an energy of communication, of knowledge, divine knowledge, the bridge between the spiritual as well as the physical knowledge. This is the keeper of Akashic records. So when we started the season, there is a royal who asked her, okay, what are the things that align us with the season? But I think we'll just touch a little bit on that one because the season is ending. Okay, the season is ending and we're going now into our 4th season of the year. We're still in the 3rd one. And we're gonna have the summer solstice coming up. To those who are not familiar, the summer solstice. And yeah, the the things that are happening now. So I think most people have heard of the principle ya Kwanzaa. Those who go to Ebukosini Solutions or are more on the, or they know this knowledge, let's say from an American perspective, you know that Kwanzaa is one of the things that they touch on. But where this concept is about, it's everything of the first fruits, the first harvest. I see Mkulu just joined us. I hope he can Paola. The last time we connected, I asked him to read up a little bit on Seshat. Oh no. Okay, so the session is going to be short because my battery is also not allowing me to stay here. Thank you so much to those who are liking. Please do tap the screen as you come in. But yeah, so I thought people would refer to the old episodes that we've done before regarding this principle, Djehuti. But yeah, clearly I see we didn't touch or we have also new people, who don't know where to find us. But on YouTube, if you want to understand the principle more in depth, I think we have, probably over 5 episodes on this principle at Djehuti. And Togos Amkulu, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I really love it when you are here. It's in charge your phone, because the session might be a bit longer. But yeah, so let's speak on this principle. Djehuti. I touched on the Nguni names for it. We'll touch on the Sesotho. So ka Sesotho re re ke mueli. So your advocate. So ke mueli ke mongodi kapa mokodi ka Setswana. Let's correct Batswana. I don't know my pronunciation on lock. But yeah, so let's just touch on a little bit. I guess it's late now, but let's touch on the things that align us with the season. So the season of Djehuti happens from the 23rd of November up until the 23rd of December. But before we get to the 23rd of December, there is something that happens in the cosmos called the summer solstice. Now, the summer solstice, that is now the day that marks the beginning of summer, the summer season, right? So we know, we say, no, Honali winter, honali summer, and not speaking of the other seasons, but also with the content that we deal with here, we refer to our months as seasons, right? Because there is an energy principle that governs whatever's happening in that month, right? So that is the period here, the Djehuti season, and it's the next one that we're going into, and I think we'll have an episode on Sunday. I'm not too sure if it's gonna be on this platform or if we're going to take it to YouTube. But I think we've done a lot of YouTube. So that is why I'm gravitating a lot towards this app here. I don't know if I'm allowed to call it the Chinese app. But this app here. And then the colors of the season are your grays and your whites, right? As you would see on the ibis bird as well, that it's a gray and white kind of creature. And you would see it also in the animal kingdom, the baboons, right? So I know maybe most of us are familiar with the ones that are completely black, but there is like the gray color, and I want us to touch on the gray color as a color itself, right? So we know how about it when you've got gray hairs, right? So they either say that you're a wealthy somebody or you're somebody with knowledge. So some people, I think, I mustn't say most of us, but some people are naturally born maybe with a strand of gray, or would have like a patch of gray or something eling gray, right? But that is the color that we say, no, this represents wisdom. And then I made notes now if you see me looking down. And then the tree is the pomegranate tree. So if you found yourself gravitating towards this, like a friend of mine, I remember when we started with this content about 3 years ago on YouTube, she's like, I didn't know why. This was the only thing that I could stomach. But she is also a Djehuti, a person who carries the Djehuti energy, right? So another quick reminder is that we embody all the 12 principles, right? If we're speaking of the solar calendar, we embody all the 12 zodiac houses, right? But you will just be in more higher frequency with the ones of the season that you were born in. Thank you so much for joining us on a Friday night. I was hoping that people would be out. So Mkhulu, thank you so much. I'm accepting your co-host there. Can I just wrap up here? Beso uzangena Mkhulu, but I want us to touch on the 7 Hermetic laws, by the 7 principles of Djehuti, but I want us to focus solely on mentalism, So I thought in this season we're gonna do a lot of meditation and manifestation work, but I guess we didn't get to do that. But if you guys want us to touch on that, please do let us know, And then, so like I spoke, that this is the keeper of Akashic records. So Akashic records is what the Abrahamic religion of Christianity plagiarized to say this is the book of life, right? So, but it's basically like all the deeds that have happened, everything past, present, that exists, like all knowledge that exists, whether genetic memory, everything that exists, this is in the Akashic records, including the deeds, everything that you have done, your karmic records, everything is here in the Akashic records, right? And then this is also, Djehuti is a lunar god, and I just want us to touch on the mythology part of it just a little bit. So he is a lunar god, but also in the season here on the on the Gregorian calendar, I think we are from, is it the Sagittarius season? Yes, Sagittarius season. Mariko Sagittarius season, but no, we are actually in the third house of the zodiacs, which makes it the Gemini season, which you would see now as we are talking Limkulu today, Hore. We're gonna reflect on the yin yang principle of that. We're gonna reflect on a lot of things like as above, so as below. But I think let us go into the things that align us with the season. Line us with the season, and then we'll just go through the 7 Hermetic laws, the 7 principles of Djehuti, and then we'll take it from there with Ukesha. Let me just wrap up quickly here. And then the animals that are associated with the season here are your baboons. We'll touch on the baboon as well. We touched a little bit on it the last time we're together. The baboon, the ibis, as well as the giraffe, right? So things like adaptability, things like knowledge, psychicness, so the chakras that we're supposed to focus on in the season here were your crown, your third eye, as well as your throat chakra, because this is the principle of communication. And being in the house of Gemini, right, you would see, so to not get lost or to just be on par with what it is that we're doing, just check what the West, the kids who are using our zodiac system, but in reverse. So just check where they say that the moon is, right? So to know, okay, we are in the house effing. So we are in the house here, Gemini, right now, even on our solar calendar. So on the northern hemisphere, they are, so the star signs, as you know them, are based on the northern hemisphere, not necessarily on the southern hemisphere. And a quick analogy, way to see it, Hareleko summer in the south, they are in winter in the north, and vice versa, like that, right? So that is why also we transition in a circular manner around this zodiac calendar. So that is why we are in the Gemini season. And Gemini, if you're familiar with zodiacs, we know that is that yin yang energy that is present, right? And what else did I not touch on? So I touched on the color, the metal. Let me just get to the metal. But yeah, I think because we've already passed it, maybe we shouldn't touch on the things that align us. But yeah, I just want us to touch on this, on Djehuti being a lunar god, and then just a little analogy. So if you're familiar with the movie The Lion King, I like referring to the very first one, the animated one. I think it is probably 20 something years old, that movie now, right? But in The Lion King, you would see, so The Lion King is basically based on the African creation story, ne? And thank you so much. So it's based on the African creation story, but I want us to focus on the baboon in The Lion King. So if you're familiar with the movie, you know there is Rafiki, right? So Rafiki now comes as this diviner, as this medicine man, as this person or this character that helps now Simba to ascend to the throne, right? And there is a scene where he is holding a turtle or a tortoise shell, and then umiksana limuti more, right? So this is also something reflected in Djehuti. And if you go to our native tongues, we know hore inyanga, right, would refer to the moon, and it is another word for the healers, right, that are working with the cosmos. It's so unfortunate though that current day healers, we don't know how to check or the moon earring. We're busy doing rituals during the eclipses, so we're not properly in alignment. So this is why we do the stuff that we do on these spaces, on these social spaces, so that we're able to realign with ourselves. So nyanga is another word for a certain type of healer. and Nyanga is also the moon. Ka Sesotho re re ke kgwedi, right, which is now linked to our menstrual cycle as people who carry the womb. It is also linked to time. So Djehuti is also the timekeeper, and you would see it. We touched on the Lebobo bone the last time we're together. No, this was a mathematical thing that they use to track time, to track also the cycles of the moon. And we know the cycles of the moon would align to the womb area, would align to this water energy that Kesha led on when we started that episode. Please tap the screen when you come in. Thanks. If you're staying, thank you. Please like our live. Thank you so much. Yeah, so Djehuti is also the timekeeper, and I want us also to remember that the phases of creation happen in 4 steps, right? So there's the phase, the water, which is where life began. This is where Kesla started from, where life began. So it's the water phase, and then it's the fire phase. So it's water, it's the fire phase, it's the earth phase, which is the 3rd vibration, and then the 4th phase, which is the air vibration, and everything happens in a circle and continuous like that. So Djehuti now happens now in all phases of creation. So Djehuti and Ma'at, which is the consort Djehuti, right? So re tla re ke bo kapadia of these energy principles that we're speaking about, because for everything, how measurements happen, why things happen at a certain time, why time is the way it is, this is governed by this cosmic pair, Djehuti and Ma'at, right? So we know that Ma'at is the law, we know that Ma'at is the principle, order, right? So before creation, there was Djehuti and Ma'at. During creation, there's Djehuti and Ma'at. Post-creation, there's Djehuti and Ma'at. But yeah, I think those are the little things that I want us to touch on Djehuti, and now I want us to touch on the 7 Hermetic principles, and for us to just go down on this path. If you want more, please go check out our YouTube channel. There is a playlist Djehuti, there's a playlist of the African calendar as well, if you understand this principle a little bit more. And like I'm saying, we are at the end, so you can also get your ebook. It's 55 South African rand if you want to just process this information that we're speaking about here, my course. Anyway, let us go to the 7 laws, what they call the 7 Hermetic laws, but we know that is also a bastardized version or a plagiarized version from what our ancients used to teach. So the 7 laws, we start with the principle of mentalism, right? So this speaks to everything that you see here, how you control your mind, how you use your mind. There's something called mind control. We did an amazing episode with one of our teachers called D. Selani. He goes by the principle of Set. But he touched on mind control and psyops. So please go check that out. I think that was a fantastic episode to understand as well how we move, why are we religious, how we are religious, why are we based on fear as much as we based on fear, So please go check out. It's on YouTube. It's the Stoned Queer Podcast. I think the link is here on our bio here on this platform here. So please go check out that absolutely amazing episode. But the principle of mentalism, guys. So if you are a person who's maybe delved in Boma manifestation, who's maybe delved in getting personal development, we know that everything, I think like all these motivational speakers and everything else, they are condensing this thing to the principle of mentalism. All is mind. When they're saying that you are the God within you, so this stems from this principle in Djehuti, because we create from the space here, as there's a book also, a colonial book called As a Man Thinketh, right? But it's basically whatever thoughts that you have, we manifest from this point here. Everything that exists right now, it comes from the mental faculties, whether so that is why they'd say like guard your thoughts and everything else, right? And then the second principle is the principle of correspondence. So if you're familiar with the saying of as above, so is below, as within, so is without, this is based on this principle in Djehuti, the second law, Djehuti, the correspondence, as above, so is below. So that is why we're in such chaos, because the cosmos or the earth is not reflecting what is happening on the cosmos, so we need that divine order where as above so is below. Also on the inside, when you have so much turmoil, the results selling outside, they are chaotic as well. So as within, so without. This is the principle of correspondence. As above, so is below. What you think in your mind is gonna manifest outside there. So all these principles, please just also listen how interlinked that they are. So this is the principle of correspondence, which is the second principle. And then the third principle is the principle of vibration. So you can take it from a scientific point of view. You can take it from, I don't know what other points of view, but I'll speak from science or spirituality or sacred science point of view. But it basically says that everything is in vibration. Everything, nothing is standing, nothing is at rest. Everything has a certain vibration. The earth itself has a vibration. The air itself has a vibration. That is why also there would be things like, maybe if you are if you're doing music, right? We're gonna have 432 hertz. There's a beautiful episode I did, I think 3 years ago. I touched on what is the language of God, and it was an interesting episode. But what is the language of God? So God, or whatever you refer to God, or creator, or whatever you see that is manifesting here, is manifesting because of vibration. Kindly note as well how these things are interlinked. If you're not vibrating handily, if you're always in panic and anxiety, what are the pictures that you're creating in the mind? And from creating in the mind, what are the outputs that you're putting out there? All right. So the interlinkedness. And then the fourth principle is polarity. So polarity speaks to hot and cold, but because nature is not as rigid as us, right? So it doesn't happen in an absolute binary manner. So as much as there's black and white, there is the gray areas, right? As much as there's 1 and 0, there is a 0.1, 0.11, 0.11, but there is that polarity that exists, right? Hot and cold. Yeah, hot and cold. What is cold? Cold is the absence of hot. But all these things together can give feeling or measurement or of temperature or experiencing temperature, the hot and the cold, right? And then the fifth principle is the principle of rhythm, right? So that whole cyclical thing that I touched on, creation, as much as, creation, we spoke of the 4 phases of creation: the water phase, the fire phase, the earth phase, as well as the air phase. If you are also aware or have been in spirituality, we know that these are, I'm thinking Captain Planet, but these are the, what are they called? Okay, Kesha, you'll help me with the word. We're coming just now, I'm almost done at the end now. But maybe also amagumbi amane omhlaba kapa the 4 corners of the earth. These are based on these 4 states. Yeah, I would call them states, right? So the state of water, the state of air, the state of fire, the state of earth, right? So if you're familiar with Captain Planet, if you're familiar with Avatar as well, you get your water benders, your air benders, your earth benders, and then you get the one who can alchemize everything collectively. I think once you get to that level, then you're fully in your God state. You've managed the 4 corners of the earth, or the 4 dipapusitse kapa amagumbi. We know gumbi also translates to a room, right? But we'll touch on these things some other time. And then the 6th principle is the principle of cause and effect. Now, what you guys would call karma, what you would call, karma has a bad rap, but this is basically it's a universal law and an unbreakable law. What you do always has a result. In science they call it the third law of Newton, action reaction. Or what you put out is what you get in, right? So third law of Newton, but this is basically the principle of cause and effect. So it's like people who say, no, karma doesn't exist, move on, what, in a situation, I'd say like Yamjolo or something like that. But I think we'll have karma a topic on its own, Jane. And then the third principle is the principle of gender, which we speak extensively about, and we've spoken about it Lekehla as well. But this basically speaks to the masculine and the feminine energy, so not necessarily the sex behind it, male, female, but the energy that you carry. And when we touching on these principles here, we speak of androgynous beings or androgynous energy, but everything that you see, even in the animal kingdom, there is maybe avocado that is masculine, there is a avocado alien feminine that is able to bear fruits, kind of thing, but these are the 7 hermetic laws, but the 7 principles of Djehuti. Please tap the screen, guys. Thank you. But I want us to touch on mentalism, since we are still in the season of knowledge, with like ancient knowledge, current knowledge, Akashic records, producing things, having that harmony between your mind as well as your physical, because as much as we are now saying, oh no, we are in the nyami nyami season, we see December is happening and all of that, which is another thing, guys. But we'll touch on it when we do our episode Janeptet, the next episode. I think we're gonna do that on Sunday, right? Of why is December Kasinguni called Zibandlela? We'll touch on the festivities as well. But Mkulu, I think you can come in now. Togoza, welcome. Kesha, are you still here?
Togoza gogo.
Togoza Mkulu.
I like the topics. Yes.
Thank you so much for joining me. I wasn't sure if you're gonna be here.
Nami ngibona mangingena vele ukuthi hawo khona.
Enkosi, siyabulela.
Yazi yazi I wanted to talk more about the law of mentalism, actually.
Togoza Mkulu.
And I like the fact that you pointed it out sasuka vele ukuthi ufuna uzwa ngaloko.
Togoza.
Gogo, like some of these things consideration as if they are deep things, but they are actually easier than we can understand.
100%.
Because mawicabanga vele, if all is mind, then all comes from the mind. So if all comes from the mind, even your desires, even everything that you think of, it's just a part and parcel of the mind.
100%.
Hence, the question, what is the language of God? I just thought about the medu nectar. What it is, the medu nectar, the language of God.
So was I'm cool.
Because within the medu nectar, that's where you get the divine speech. But beyond the divine speech, what you get beyond the divine speech is resonance.
Absolutely.
Resonance is part of the mind.
Absolutely cool.
Going back to mentalism, resonance is a part of the mind. Because once you can resonate with the reality that you perceive for yourself, then you can attract that reality.
I'm cool.
Once you resonate with who you are, then you start to express your authentic self to people.
That alignment. I'm cool.
That alignment. That alignment, Coco. So now let's look at resonance. The Asian called it pata. That is resonance.
I'm cool.
So they understood that, okay, we are talking about the principles of nature because pata is nature, tetinen. That is, I think it's blooming lands or something like that. But that is pata still.
100%.
You're talking about resonance, you're talking about nature, you're talking about connecting with your inner being. Because even if we can take the story of creation, any story, I actually like the Christian one. When they say men are created from dust of the land, but you ask yourself, which dust? Because the dust that I remember is that dust. because we come from the stars.
Dust. I love that.
So now, when we talk about all these figures, all these divine figures, the nectars, I like to call them the nature, because you understand these people are not talking about something that is not there. They are talking about principles that are there. They are talking about Ra. They are talking about radiance. They are talking about Djehuti or Djehuti, the great, because he was great in what? They are talking about intellectual property, intelligence, and knowledge, understanding,
100%.
wisdom.
100%.
So they understood Uti, by giving these principalities names, then they can summon that power behind them. Hence, they gave Jehuti his name. But you ask yourself, what does this name derive from? Jed, Jed pillar,
The
the
jet
pillar
pillar.
within your. Yeah, Jehuti starts from the Jed pillar. They were talking about that, the pillar within the 33 degrees. 33
100%.
degrees of Freemasonry, the spinal cord, 33 vertebrae. Jesus died at age 33. 33. That's the master number.
Master Manifesta.
So these these guys didn't just understand the universe. They know how to encode it or how to decode it. Because it's one thing understanding how it operates, but it's another thing when you know how to decode what is speaking to you. And you
Togoza
can
mkhulu.
only access that through the Akashic records.
Togoza mkhulu.
You can only access that through the Akashic records. Or ngiyibize ke in its finest form, you can only access that through Djehuti and Sechat. Djehuti and Sechat, you can access it through that. Because these people were encoders, scribes of knowledge. But these people were also keepers of the same knowledge. So when you tap into their frequency, you are tapping into that Asian knowledge of
Togoza
the
mkhulu.
divine masculine and feminine aligning as one. So Sechat is the house of, she is the librarian. I call it the librarian. The one that keeps the books, the one that knows which books to give to thy soul to unlock its capabilities.
Togoza
So that
mkhulu.
is Sechat. So that's a divine place. That's a divine representation. That's what she represents as the divine.
Can I
So
touch on Seshat a little bit, mkhulu?
no problem, no
Um,
problem, Gogo.
just for not familiar with the context. You would see this deity. It's a female deity. She's also, so it's not, she doesn't have the ibis head scribing, but she's also got something she's scribbling on. And then Pezulu, upete, like a Wi-Fi symbol, but it's from cannabis. I think that was the last point we're on. I don't know if we're gonna have time to touch on how cannabis as well is a herb that we need to use responsibly, to be able to tap into these cosmic realms, kapa these mental faculties. Like, what door does this sango open? Togoza mkhulu.
Was a Gogo. We can touch on that. We can touch on because yonke nje when you understand ukuthi explain into eyodwa like the Hermetic principles, the Egyptian gods and all of this, you find that this truth aligns somewhere. They link somewhere. They touch a certain part of your brain, because when we speak about these concepts, we're not only hitting the frontal cortex or you are hitting all spots within the human brain when you're speaking about things that are intellectual.
Togoza mkhulu.
So that is what we are basically doing right now. So let's go to the lady, the librarian. Because yeah, now when you understand her principle, Luguti, this is the house of life. She is the representation of the house of life, which is the cannabis plant.
Thokoza mkhulu.
So many people have made stereotypes around it without understanding its true properties. Anything that is a herb but is also psychedelic, you have to understand it. It will be put in a section of being said that it's drugs, but
Thokoza
that is
mkhulu.
far from the truth.
Thokoza.
That is far from the truth. It is like Mother Earth's own way of rebelling against anything. Because once you give people something that is psychedelic, you're making those people remember where they come from or who
Makosi,
they are.
makosi.
So, like, you understand that is like Mother Nature's way of saying, I don't want my people not to receive enlightenment, because you can only receive enlightenment through the indulgence of these things, and you have to know how to indulge within them.
Thokoza mkhulu. Respectfully.
Because we want, yebo, yebo, Gogo. Yeah, Gogo, like, we want sugar coated. You must have a certain type of discipline when it comes to anything. You must
Mm-hmm.
have a certain type of discipline. It's either you're gonna go to spirituality, you're gonna go to cannabis and mix it with spirituality. But now you are inviting some certain forces there.
Thokoza
You have
mkhulu.
to have some certain type of discipline. Ukuthi, no, now if I am to retain, I am retaining.
Thokoza mkhulu.
Because I understand that this road that I'm embarking in is not really easy. It's not going to be easy. Because without discipline, most you're going to what? You're going to be lost within the road.
Yeah,
And
that's why I think you
even if
find
you,
other people who revert back to religion, because I think, yeah, there's some sort of misunderstanding, about spirituality where people wanna like attend spirituality like they're attending religion, and akudlalwa lana, like high discipline in a lot of things, like even the way now you start consuming cannabis, what I man, lento le is key kahle kahle. You should even see it in a psychedelic ceremony in preparation, those energies that are invited, the preparation that you need to do, that fasting that you need to do, that inviting, a whatever entities, respect the respect of the plant, Thokoza mkhulu.
yebo Gogo, injalo Gogo, like discipline is the key. Because now you're gonna go to spirituality, you're gonna go to cannabis and mix it all in the same time, but you don't have discipline. There you are destroying your life.
Thokoza mkhulu.
There, that's why we say thy human is thy God, because once you understand that you are the generator, the operator, and also you are the destroyer of your life. So now you're going to blame people without understanding the law of cause and effect. Good,
Thokoza
no,
mkhulu.
I you do you always you always blame shifting. It's just that isingisi siyabaleka uhlezi ushift blame vele. Because
Hayi
now you
futhi
don't want to
asisifuni
take
namhlanje.
accountability. Because abantu abaningi, they don't understand the law of cause and effect, that it means you must
Thokoza.
take accountability.
Thokoza mkhulu.
You see, Gok. And that lack of understanding, it stems ukuthi, it shows ukuthi there's a long way for people to go. Hence we're gonna hit on reincarnation a bit. But there's a long way for people to go. Like that is why we're gonna keep on reincarnating, because there's still a long way for people to go.
Yeah,
So
but I think there's
understand.
hope now, mkhulu. There's hope because I think spaces like religion, when I'm cool, they don't teach accountability, you know. And sorry, I'm not picking on this Abrahamic religion, but that whole thing of some, like, you do the worst deeds and then, but you know, you just have to confess with your mouth that Mang Mang is my savior, and then it just absolves you of that responsibility, which I feel would see, you know what, I think I think we're getting there, Mkhulu. I think once we start understanding these universal laws, like you're not cause and effect, like I'm saying, Uti, karma just has a bad rep, but it's basically you're not this universal law. It's not even just the law of Djehuti, but it's ikon kunjalo, unfortunately. Can I read a comment quickly, Mkhulu? Ugogo uti, I think the greatest challenge that makes people revert to religion is the lack of accountability. Togoza Gogo. Yeah, I think it's just what you just touched on when I'm cool. Galeboga Gogo.
Hayi njalo gogo, njalo. Like people lack accountability today. Hence, they always wanna blame, shift the blame. Religious folks go to the devil. What I know it's Mara manje when you are into spirituality, who are you going to blame?
Exactly.
Uzoblame uba makabani vele ugogo wase next door. Phela manje iyatshintsha ugogo wase next door. Phela wena manje you are not in religion vele. You're gonna
Exactly.
blame other people. You're gonna blame, but the blame will never come to you, because once the blame comes to you, you'll always find an excuse if you're not willing to change.
Hmm.
Because once the blame starts to shift now and come to you, you're going to find an excuse if you are not willing to change. But if you are
100%.
willing to change, you're gonna accept that blame. Good to know, man. I am the one to blame here. Yimo beka
Hey, are
wrong.
you not a god? Did you not create this?
Is even the God in the Bible, he's like the same people that follow that same religion. He like to
Togoza.
shift the blame, put the accountability on the devil for his own actions.
Eish, yeah, no. Hey, abona leyo religion wena Khehla, it's such a, hey, ngathi besihlanya, you know, ngathi besihlanya, honestly, because you know that question where they'd ask this in memes, ukuthi, like, why doesn't God just destroy or kill the devil, okay, if it's such a problem, you know? But religion needs the devil, kahle kahle, you know?
Yeah, for to survive.
Thokoza, thokoza.
To survive, because like this fairy tale of good and evil, devil and God. That's a childhood fairy tale that you should live in childhood. Ukuthi if something goes bad, it's the demons or the devil. If something goes good, it's God.
Exactly.
You have to leave that fairy tale in the past,
Which is why I
because that is
love
why.
this first principle, Djehuti wena Khehla, the principle of mentalism, you know. Isusa that lack of accountability back to you, you know. And yeah, we're not saying be atheist or anything like that, but like this whole, like Ukeshla saying, shifting things to some other things. And I'm not saying Guti, there's no impact, you know. We're not saying Guti ayikho imimoya mibi or imoya mihle and whatnot. But who's the God in this equation, kahle kahle? Who is the creator in this situation?
Eish, God. Like I wish people could understand those laws and could just take those seven Hermetic principles only, because there are many laws in the universe. You're gonna confuse yourself, especially if you are new to this subject. But you can take those seven ones. Once you understand those seven, that yeah, everything is mind, law of gender, masculine and feminine. When we're talking about the masculine and the feminine, we're not talking about the man and the woman. We are
Thokoza
talking about
mkhulu.
principles.
Thokoza,
Because
thokoza.
abantu bayayilahla lapha.
Kakhulu.
Bayayilahla.
Kakhulu.
They
Hence
think
this,
that we are talking about the physical man. They think that we are talking about the physical woman. No, we're not
and
talking
I've
about
seen
those.
how it's so difficult for Amagents to accept the whole, not like you also have the feminine aspect to you. You know, a lot of gents don't wanna recognize that fact. You know, for some reason.
And there are people, they don't realize what most men today, they are very feminine. Most men today, they are very, very feminine. And most women tend to be masculine because now abantu abangakhoni ukwe-accepta le affect ukuthi there is this thing and I have to embrace it.
To be
They tend
balanced.
to not, yeah, to be balanced ukuthi you can tap into your femininity or your feminine side, or you can tap into your masculinity. Uyabo?
Awesome.
So they don't understand ukuthi kumnandi ukutapha between these two brains, because you can think with both sides of the brain.
Right?
They don't understand that you are unlocking your possibilities.
Awesome.
Everything that you are doing, you are unlocking your possibilities, because once you can tap into the right and the left hemisphere, you become unstoppable.
You're a full god, Baba.
Uyabo? Once you start to understand that, then you start to know how to respect the other gender.
Awesome.
Once you
Cool.
start to understand that, then you start to know how to sympathize. Uyabo?
With self
You
as
start to
well.
know
I
how to
think a lot
feel.
of things we don't deal with self qala, you know. And I think that's why ngithi like ayikho leyo resonance, you know, ilo number ma as above says below law number 2, you know, there's
Correspondence.
ayikho that resonance between the cosmos and what's happening here emhlabeni, because we always have this noise inside of us, you know, hence zona these gender wars where I'm like, do you even understand, like, do you even understand, like I'm saying Guti, some people don't want to accept what, you know, you need to balance the mask and the feminine within you, you know. It's also anchored in one of these principles of Djehuti. I spoke about the Gemini energy earlier on, that yin and yang energies, you know, which is again based on zona le seven le, like you're saying, if people can just understand the sevens, then I will click you.
Like yazi gogo, I won't be long, yazi ifoni yami ifuna ukucima ngoba ngathi ngiyayitshaja ivumi, but
No
I won't be
problem.
long, yazi.
No, we're gonna wrap up just now.
Yeah, no problem, no problem, gogo. But I just want to leave people with this ukuthi they must understand ukuthi when we're talking about the masculine and the feminine, we're not talking about men and women. We are talking about the principles behind that.
So wasn't
By operating in a state of duality, because even if you can look at God, what is God? It is singular,
so
because that is
was
why people are pushing monotheistic religions, because of the understanding that God is a single state or a single state of mind. So now let's look at it like this. If God is single, then is he man or woman? Because now we're gonna make him dual if we're gonna say that is man or he is a woman or she is a woman.
mm,
That then now we are making him dual actually. But now if you understand that God is masculine and feminine, there was no masculinity without femininity. There was no feminine without a masculine. You see?
so was
There's
cool.
enye exist without the other. Gogo yabona.
So
Enye
was
ayikho without the other. No matter which story says that the first god was feminine, the first goddess, yabo. No matter which story says the first god, just know that the source is what? Masculine and feminine
so was
in
cool.
correspondence.
So was
Because That's where people lose it. They don't understand that. These two forces we are talking about, a state of being. Many people, most spiritual teachers, they were not teaching about ascending via all these rituals and all these things. They were talking about ascension via um aligning these two things. Hence, they made the symbol of the ankh in Egypt. Because of that, babeyenzela lokho vele lokho to to show that balance of the masculine and the feminine.
So was I'm cool.
Without the other, they can never be the other. I was baffled by the story of Atum. When they say that he spat out Shu and I think it's Shu and Tefnut or something.
Definitely, yes.
No, yeah. So if this guy or this god or this, yeah, just anything you wanna call him, but if he can spit out a descendant of his, is that not pathogenesis from the masculine
Self-creation.
perspective?
So was I'm cool.
Self-creation from the masculine, because Atum was masculine. So meaning that pathogenesis is possible within both of these genders.
So was I'm cool.
Because later on, Isis performed pathogenesis when he was giving birth to Heru.
So was
That was pathogenesis. Mary in the Bible, he gave birth to Jesus through pathogenesis.
So was.
Is that not pathogenesis?
So was.
So if both of these genders are capable of pathogenesis, what does that mean? It means that they are superior in their own right.
And back to oneness again.
Back to oneness again, because they come from oneness.
So was I'm cool.
Because that oneness is where everything comes from. And we are all just fragments of that oneness. It's just a reflection of that oneness having its own experience.
So was I'm cool. I just want to read comments before you drop off. When Anokoko seemed to be in alignment today, she's saying exactly what you're saying. What a superpower it is to function in duality in a state of unison but whole. I hope you got your comments earlier on. There was Umkulu who said, Siyaphila khehla lami, ninjani nine, it's been a while. So thank you for joining us, Mkulu. I think you are our favorite here. And then Ukok again says, this has always been depicted, even in patriarchal times, that as a king needs a queen to fulfill his duty. Even though, I lost it, hold on. Even though hidden in illusion, the balance between these two energies has always been prevalent. Exactly, Mkulu. Kamo just got here as well. Ore, she's late. I think we'll share parts of this on YouTube, Coco. Thank you so much for joining us. Okay, I lost my train of thought, Mkulu. I think unga continue until maybe let's say the next 10 minutes.
All
We'll
right,
charge
all
you
right.
phone the was join. So was cool.
Ewe, hoka. Uyazi the when they separate these two to become one, you get a story from, as much as I like Christianity, but I like the Gnostic side of it, because the Gnostic side of it doesn't come from a perspective of this doesn't come from this perspective of fear me, I am your God, you need to worship me by any means necessary.
So
But it comes from a perspective that it shows you the feminine side. It shows you the power of the feminine. Because you have to understand that if one is not displayed, especially the women like to be displayed. We know that in our dating lives, we know that in everything. Because now in Christianity, they don't display the feminine and her capabilities. They don't show you that side of her. So essentially, that is destroying your feminine side. Essentially, that is making you not to accept it, not to embrace it. Because you don't know where to refer to as a woman being greatness. You see, that is why now where I get a problem with it. No, man, I need to read scriptures talking about the feminine in a divine power. Why am I only getting Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit? Where is the Mother there?
Yo, mkhulu, but my life is gonna end. Oh, wait, hold on. I think I'm gonna. Okay, okay, please continue. No, that there's a to do, I guess. Ungaqhubeka,
Oh,
mkhulu.
thank you, Coca. Like, where is the Mother there? Because in creation, we know that there is the Father, the Mother, then the child, or the Mother, the Father, then the child. Yeah, but that is why you get these gods and goddesses switching roles. Sometimes it's the mother, the father, then the child. Qamata, qalumama, ibe ngutata. It's the mother, then the father. There's no child. You see, but you get the pattern though. Ukuthi, these people are
Thokoza,
just talking
thokoza.
about the masculine and the feminine. So now you go to the Gnostic side of it, you find that there is the mother, there is the father, and then there is the child. And these people are divine in their own right. They are beings that they explain to you that are higher than gods themselves. And to me, I was like, I always knew this. Ukubona leya nto uyifunde into ube like, eish, engade ngiyazi le. But let me read more into it. Ukuthi, what do they mean? They are beings that are, and they make sense. Ukuthi, these are the eons that ruled before, or that were governing before. And they give you figures, they give you names. Ukuthi, okay, this is Eleleth, the eon of wisdom. Her
I
role
wanted
was
to ask
wisdom.
about Lilith. Does she not exist in the Gnostic texts?
Lilith, I think
Yeah,
uyithola
yeah.
angamboni la. Let me think. Hayi ngathi
Aqhubeka, mkhulu.
akekho lapho. Okay.
Okay.
Like uyazi gogo, like there they explain to you ukuthi these are emotions that even the gods feel. Ukuthi, yeah, even if you get this figure is named this. This is something that you cannot fight against it because you feel it. If this is the principle of love, this is the name of the principle of love, you can't fight that because you feel love. So these people were not only speaking about religion, they were speaking to the mind, they were speaking to the parts of the brain. Because you have to understand, true liberation starts from the mind, then the body, then the soul.
Thokoza, mkhulu.
But true liberation starts from the what? From the mind. Once the mind is free, then the body will be free. Even in captivity, the body will be free. Then
Thokoza,
if the
mkhulu.
body is free, then the bar is free, the soul is free. You see, that is freedom of the mind. And people need to free their mind.
Thokoza, mkhulu. We've been saying for years. There's actually umkhulu Mlaba, or they call him Ugusha in other circles, but he was here. He was saying Uguti, yeah, now he's able to create, like, in the midst of turmoil. Principle one, got Djehuti. He's able to focus on that little light that he can get. If usebnyameni and there's a spark of light, if you focus on that spark itself, then iyakwazi ukukhula and expand. And he says this is how he's been operating his life for the past year. Ukuthi you focus on that thing. When you focus on that thing, you are able to expand. So that is why uthi noma kuntswembu kanjani, once I'm able to control here, which is what our topic is, today, the principle of mentalism, which is law number 1 ka Djehuti.
Gogo. And once you can control the mind, Coco, once you can control the mind, then life becomes easy. Because the hermetic law of mentalism, all is mind, all begins from the mind, all starts from the mind. Each and every idea that you get, it begins from the mind. It begins as a thought, as an idea.
Everything.
Ukuthi ucabangi. Uyabo, everything starts there. Even these ideas that we think today, they are not new. Each and
Thokoza
every
mkhulu.
invention that you see today, it is not new. There's nothing
It's
new
started
under the
here.
sun.
Thokoza mkhulu.
Uyabo, there's nothing new under the sun. Whereas Gogo, there are people that ended their lives without living their dreams.
Mm,
So now, how many thoughts did they think about?
mm.
And to think that your idea is new. It's not new, it's just that it's an idea of someone who never fully fought to accomplish it.
Thokoza mkhulu. Thokoza
To
mkhulu.
even accomplish it, to even start it, it's just an idea that was there in the universe. You have
Mm.
to understand ukuthi when people say I have too many business ideas, there are too many ideas. Imagine if it's too many business ideas within one person. How many ideas are within 1,000 people? There are
Thokoza
many
mkhulu.
ideas. How many of those ideas will be lived out? That's the question.
Back to the Akashic records, as you are speaking there, when I'm cool. Ukuthi, there's nothing new under the sun, you know. Hence, we have these Akashic records of Djehuti. Asekhaya.
Injalo, gogo, injalo, gogo, yazi.
Thokoza.
And we we get these records because it is something that is within our DNA. 1 gram of DNA can hold up, I think it's 7,000 terabytes of
Yo,
information.
yo.
That's like 1 gram. How many grams is your DNA? That's the
Mm,
question
mm,
now.
mm.
You see. So if that's how much the information that is within the Akashic, within your DNA, that's how much the information that is within the Akashic records.
Yes, yes. I like speaking of that one on Namkulu, what I called genetic memory, you know, when you're able to naturally do something, but awukaze study that thing, awukaze practice that thing, but it's that memory, kapa these recordings from the Akashic record that lives in your DNA, that's binding your DNA together. That is why you are able to just be very good at something ungazi nawe ukuthi why am I good at this thing. So it's genetic memory, which is again in the realm of Djehuti again.
Injalo, injalo, gogo. Yazi, it's also years of experience via reincarnation that gives you
Thokoza
that
mkhulu, thokoza.
ukuthi some
In
of
the
us are
DNA.
speaking in the DNA. Some of us lezi zinto asizazi ukuthi sizifunde ey'ncwadini. Ezinye
Thokoza.
zezinto esizikhulumayo sazi because we once explained them in our past life.
Thokoza.
Uyabo. We once taught them, we once learned them, we once mastered them, we once did that. That is why now you find that people, when they get too spiritually aligned, they lose interest in the world because they
Mm.
see that I once did this, man. Le nto ngake ngayenza le ngonyaka othize kwathini. If you can remember even the year, then you are blessed, my brother. If you
Thokoza.
can remember, uba, I once did this in the 1900s. Yeah, I'm just repeating something that I did.
Thokoza
So if
mkhulu.
you can get to that level, I feel like we have reached that level of Christhood. Because when they talk about being the Christ, they talk about remembering the past, present, future, remembering everything. They even play it in front of your faces. Leya movie le bathi ulusi. Leya
Thokoza
movie
mkhulu.
leyana ulusi. It is talking about that. But being the Christ, remembering all things, remembering that you are all things, remembering that you are within all. Uyabo?
Thokoza mkhulu.
So that remembrance, Gogo, is held within the what, within the DNA
The
itself.
DNA.
That is why you find that some of the things that you remember are not your memories, but the memories of your ancestors.
So that is
Because
why
your
also when I'm
ancestors,
Kulu, even this content here, I think for most people, I like saying Guti, there's no coincidence or anything like that. But for most people, there's some sort of resonance because this is something that you know. So what you and I are doing is just basically helping people remember, just put ourselves together again. But this is something that you know. That is why you would find yourself gravitating towards this thing because you're just remembering something that you already know, whether keep past lifetime carried by your ancestors in the actual DNA, or this is something that you are reincarnating to. So that is why you're here. It's not a mistake that I think we're all gathered here today. So goes okay.
injalo gogo yazi. And like the memories of our ancestors live through us. Because when you look at the DNA comes from your mother's side, comes from your father's side. Those are not just strings nje ezihlanganayo somewhere somehow. It's a road telling you that you are the meeting of the ancestors from your mothers and your fathers. So you have their capabilities, you have their abilities, you have their if babebona babe izanusi, now uzoba isanusi because unako lokwakubona kwabo. Uyabo?
Thokoza mkhulu.
But that destiny, it won't chase you forever because abanye bathi hayi mina ngibizwa idlozi kwathini idolo lokucima. Because that destiny will not chase you forever. If
Thokoza
iyayibona ukuthi
mkhulu.
awufuni izokuyekela naye. It can seem also ukuthi this person doesn't want, because that is not a calling from your ancestors, it's a calling from you. And ask me, how do I call myself? Your higher self is calling you back to him.
Thokoza
Bathi bona
mkhulu.
hayi, bathi bona hayi ngibizwa idlozi. Your higher self is just calling you back to self. That is why you have to go to that road of Oktwasa.
Thokoza mkhulu.
Uyabo?
Mkhulu, I think let's give the meditator a chance aphawule naye before Sivala. But I just want to read this. As you're talking, actually, Umkosi Ma'at Uti Christus oil. The Christus or Christ Togoza Gogo Nawe Keshalami. Togoza. When you're speaking about that jade pillar as well, I wanted to refer to this Christus oil, Togoza Mkulu. Ngicela, if your battery's still alive, please just hang on there before Sivala. The meditator, do you want to share something with us?
Yes, that oil, maybe to just refine, to be specific for validation. Do you maybe think that oil might be castor oil? Because one wants to get to a source, from a tangible point, to utilize that, to then preserve and anoint the body, obviously, from negative frequencies. So I just want to try and mine humbly to get to the specific oil, because I do think it's castor oil, one that one can use, to put on your skin, because it obviously does avoid all blockages and obviously eliminate all parasites. And then you get the castor oil that you can consume, right? Which obviously then, gets rid of all parasites in your intestine and your brain, which is the church, the temple, right? So yeah.
No, thank you. Thank you for that. Yes, very, very interesting points that you're sharing there. Yeah, if we don't have any more questions, guys, I think but I just want to go through the 7 Hermetic laws, the principles of Djehuti, and to just touch on the name Djehuti. I forgot to say this earlier on. So in the Sesotho language, there is a rendition of Djehuti where it's referred to as Tehuti, right? And ka Sesotho re re ke thuto, which is the knowledge, the great teacher again, which again resides in the realm of Djehuti. And then when we're speaking about the whole duality principle and oneness, the feminine and the masculine and oneness again. I think the Black Root Science, they explain it very well. This whole, they break down the numbers, from the 1 became the 2, from the 2 became the 3, those sacred numbers that they touch on. So I think we do have our BRS scholars in the house today. But yeah, very interesting also, the year that we're going into when we're looking at the Gregorian year, 2026, everything is going back to oneness, this whole division thing. Yeah, if you guys are observing the thing, if you're consciously living and seeing the things that are happening with us. But let us touch on the 7 principles and then Rekwal if we don't have any more questions. But the first law is mentalism. I'm hoping next year, I think next year, can we do something? Let us help you guys be able to manifest, create from the mind, which is what we're speaking here, which is where creation would begin, but obviously in alignment with the other chakra points. And then the second principle is the principle of correspondence. The third principle is the principle of vibration. Fourth principle of polarity. The fifth of rhythm. So everything is continuous, the ebb and flow of the ocean. So that thing. And then sixth principle, the principle of cause and effect, what we also call karma, which I feel has a bad rep. And then the seventh principle is the principle, gender in everything. So those are the 7 laws. And as Ukehla had advised, that if you can just anchor yourself on these 7 principles, don't go to the Ma'at laws. And then the other thing I wanted to touch on as well, to those who just joined us. So remember that the principle, Djehuti and Ma'at, they exist in all phases of creation. They existed before time, pre-time, during time, post-time, because Ma'at and Djehuti control the measurements, control the time, control the cycles, control the how things fit together, control the law and order of things. But thank you so much to those who joined us. We will have a live, I guess, on Sunday on the principle of Neptet, which is the nurturer, which is the 4th season of our year. Remember, we started our new year in September, and we're going into that new vibration. But also another important thing that we need to mention, Djehuti, that in the mythology. So remember also mythologies and stories and everything. These are just concepts to help us understand these grand concepts. Spirituality is something that is far beyond us. So we use these concepts to better understand certain things, to answer questions like, who is God? Where do we come from? How do I understand this thing? Coco, remind me, my train of thought. What was I touching on? Djehuti. Oh, yes, the mythology part. So we know we speak of the scales of Ma'at, right? Where now in the afterlife, which is a continuation of life. Life doesn't end once milile le moya di ahlogana, ne? We spoke about the 9 parts of the soul the last time we connected. I don't know if the live is still available. Maybe we can upload that as well. But thank you, Gogo. Thank you so much. The mythology, yes. So Djehuti, haririki mlobigazi, mlomogazi, haririki mueli. So when you take in there to the scales of Ma'at, so this is the person, Djehuti is the judge, he's also the advocate, So from the Akashic records, what were the deeds that you were doing, How are we weighing your heart against the feather? So Djehuti also exists here, and we spoke that Djehuti is also a lunar god, which is where now the whole divination thing would come. And it's so unfortunate that we didn't have enough time to delve into this principle. But on our YouTube channel, I've done multiple episodes on Djehuti as well, and about divination and the lunar gods and what do we do at this time, Djehuti. So it's a beautiful time also to go get your floor x-rays if you're a floor x-rayer, but that reading. And this was a time where we are enhancing our mental faculties, and we spoke on the house of Gemini, that yin yang situation that's happening. So as much as we are in the physical right now, but this is a time for us to be able to balance the cosmic, but the spiritual as well as the physical. This was a time as well for us to deal with our mental faculties, increase our intuition, which is something that we're going to need now going forward. But we're going to touch on that one on Sunday. Haribuaka, the Neptade principle, why in the isiZulu language is the December month called Ziba Indlela. Zibandlela, yes. So you ziba the ndlelas. Why do we marry it to that season? It's also the season Yamakosi as well. If you're observing all over Africa, and I guess also in the diaspora, we touched a little bit on Bokwanza. There's the ceremony there in Swaziland as well that is happening now. So the first fruits things are happening now, Harikena, in our Neptune season. But on the 21st, this is the beginning of our summer solstice. We'll speak more on that one, but to understand what summer solstice is, go to our YouTube channel. We have multiple episodes. I think we have over 400 episodes, but they are organized in playlists. There's a playlist here, the African calendar. If you want to focus on a specific deity or an energy, there is playlist for that one. So there is a Djehuti playlist. There is African calendar playlist. If you want moons and zodiacs and cosmos and stuff, I forgot what that playlist is called, but just go on the playlist and you'll be navigated there. But thank you so much for sharing. Thank you so much for that principle, Yakasta oil. Thank you so much, Kehla, for highlighting to us the androgynous beings that we are. Thank you so much to those who are commenting as well. And yeah, for those that know us from the other movement we're part of. But thank you so much. I think this is good night if we don't have any more questions. But yes, so this was the principle of Mlobigazi, Mlomogazi, Usibandlela. It's in the lowest point, ingoni ngesiswati, sikhathi sengcwala, ingcwala. Yes. Also in Zambia as well, I think they have a ceremony yangcwala as well. But this is basically the first fruits. If you are still in church, I'll speak from the church that I used to go to, the one that I grew up in. So this was a time, there's a thing called Khona, but it's basically like Thanksgiving, in ancient times, there is Bo Pabadimu, this was a time where we offer those first fruits, we offer from our salaries, the Thanksgiving thing that is happening. But thank you so much, and I hope you survived the Djehuti season. I think there was a retrograde this season. Oh yes, the one thing I forgot to touch on, Mercury planet, yes, communication also in the realm ya Djehuti. That is why we're in the Gemini house and not necessarily in the Sagittarius house right now. And I said for you guys to track it a little bit easy, just check what the West says about the moon. Which house would the moon be in? That is where you know, okay, on our solar calendar, this is where we are at. But if we don't have anything else, Anka Ma'at, more life, more health, more wealth, Anka Ujasinep to everybody. Magube guhle, gube mhlophe, mutetu bumnyama. And I'll see you guys on Sunday. Hopefully it will be a very short one because I have a wedding to go to. Makosa mahle, makosa makulu. Thank you so much to everybody. Ashe.